Greetings, Factorians. Thanks for joining me once again. I'm going to do a bit of a sales pitch or a pep talk at the start of this session, which is going to be a big one. It's going to be about importing via trains our ore from far distances away, especially the copper and the iron is what we're going to focus on here, as they're the highest volume. And the reason I'm doing a bit of a pep talk here is this is one of the more common things for players to complain about in the game. Just train stations. Trains are complicated. Setting up ore outposts is so boring. Gah, why isn't there a better way? Well, actually, this is the better way. The alternative is just either accepting a slower pace, crawl your way through to victory as we are now transitioning our way into the endgame, or you can just have stupid long, stupid amounts of transport belts from extreme distances away and just obscene amounts of belt spaghetti that make all of this over here get put to shame once it actually arrives at your factory. So just keeping that alternative in mind is useful, and we're going to be using this area out here. I've cleared it out as much as I reasonably can for our first station. Voila! Here is our copper ore delivery station, simply calling this copper delivery. Now, we don't have a pickup area for it yet, no outpost bringing in the ore, but first things first, let's have our setup for what we're going to do when it gets here. So we have the one locomotive and 4 cargo wagons, so we can deliver up to 8,000 at once as a full train load, 2,000 for each cargo wagon. And over here, it will eventually hook into the interchange. How that's going to work, actually getting it over to the smelter, being on the ore bus, we will deal with that in a future episode. Or now we just want to get it to the factory. And then our unloading here from the cargo wagons consolidates each cargo wagon down to one belt. So we've got each chest going onto a belt, and then these 2 chests, each of these will side load onto this one. So that's half a cargo wagon. This is half a cargo wagon, then this merges it together into one belt, and we're heading off. Same for each of these. Now this monstrosity here, this is a 4-to-4 balancer. It's something that's very common with a lot of Factorio players. And what we want to use this for is make sure nothing backs up and everything is evenly distributed. That is, coming out of this, each of these belts has the same amount on it. Now the reason we care is we're not going to use the ore evenly. We'll be in some manner prioritizing which belts get used, just as a nature of which ones are we going to split off and send to the furnaces and so forth. And what can happen then is the ones that aren't getting used as much, that can back up over here. We can get full chests and we can be backed up where cargo wagons can't even unload, but it's like empty where the other ones are if it gets too severe. And so if we have this as close to the unloading area as possible, then we can equalize what's coming out of here on each of the belts, and wherever there's a shortfall or there's too much, it's going to spread it out evenly and give us maximum flow. So how does this work? Well, this splitter is going to divide evenly what comes on these 2 belts, and this splitter divides what comes on these 2 belts. And then this splitter here will split up evenly what's on these middle 2 belts. But we could still have a situation where the top and the bottom belts, or we could call those the outside belts, are not necessarily going to have the same amount as the ones in the middle. So we need to keep going. The middle belts go through this underground. This splitter here makes sure that the top and bottom one are equalized with each other, not necessarily equalized with the middle ones. That's going to happen out here in this last set of splitters, where we make sure the top and this one are equal, and this are equal. And since we knew coming in that the middle ones were equal and the outside ones were equal, now we know coming out of this last set of splitters, all 4 belts are going to be equal. And so hopefully that didn't bend your brain too much, but it is important. Of course, I've got a little bit of fuel here. We'll upgrade our fuel delivery process. For now, we have plenty of wood, and we're simply going to feed it in that way. Now, the station itself is much bigger than just this, though. It doesn't need to be quite this big. I made a little bit longer to get around this little iron ore bit that we're still doing. But we need plenty of room, and the amount of room that you need is going to depend on how big your trains are. Again, we're going with the 1.4 here. And I'm leaving, again, extra room on purpose. This is plenty sizable to handle way more than our factory is going to need. But again, you want to scale up more on your research. I want you to be able to do that, so it's better to go big and future-proof it. So that's what we're doing here. Now, we have some anti-congestion features in place to make sure we don't get log jams. For example, we have room for a full train, so once this unloads, it can come over here, and another train could come back and be unloading while you're sitting here waiting for a spot out to the main line, which is right here is that junction. You can go this way, or you can come out this way, and this area is going to connect to the west and south, and over here, we are going to be able to connect to the north and to the east. So that's going to carry it around to wherever. Then when you come into the station, that's going to happen. You're going to come in through this way, into one of these two, or here into one of these two. And this is what's known as a stacker. And I could have this a lot bigger, and in fact, I could make it bigger here. I have room that I could put another one or two of these in, but the idea is, again, you've got room to just sit here and wait. You can put a full train in here, and you can put a full train here. Of course, all of these are signaled. So if there's multiple trains coming in at once, if we happen to reach that stage, then we have room for them to sit, and they're not clogging up the main line. Trains with iron, trains with oil. If we decide to start importing coal or stone, trains with those products could come through here, and they're not being blocked by our trains waiting to unload at this station. So that's the reason mainly for this being as large as it is. We want to make sure that there's plenty of room. And also notice here, even during this section down here, you've got enough room for a full train to just sit in here. And you've got enough room over here for a full train to sit in here, and then some. So again, you're not going to get stuck trying to go through multiple intersections at once. You can get through this one, and then wait, and then get through this one, if that's something that you need to do. Copper is our top priority, but it won't be too long before we want to bring in some iron as well. And here, that setup is in place. Again, this is standardized. We've got a 1-4 train. We've got the same unloading procedure, same balancer. We're floating all this all the way down into our interchange there. And the station actually over here is the same as well. We've got room here. So a train can leave, another train can unload. You're waiting to get back on the main line, which is extended further up to the north. Our stacker is here for waiting to get into the station. And then, of course, we can continue to have space in between these intersections so we don't have any congestion there. And then further up, we've also hooked this in to our oil delivery area. So in this zone, just used a regular roundabout in this particular case. We've got the ore trains coming through here, and they can proceed up this way. Meanwhile, the oil trains are going to come through this way, drop off delivery up here, and then they come back through, and they go down the rest of the oil route. And so we can interchange this, move them about as they are needed. And here is our copper pickup station. Again, it's not that complicated. We have 4 belts coming in. Always want to split it into 4 because we have 4 cargo wagons. We're going to want to load them evenly. Then each belt is going to be served by, again, 4 of our stack inserters and 4 chests. So we've got 1 splitter dividing it in half and more splitters dividing each of those in half so that we are equally distributing the load and we get loaded as fast as we reasonably can. And down here, we've got the same balancer, so splitting all the ore that we're producing into as equal of loads as we can. And then everything is heading out as it will. Now this is right down here. And then the copper delivery station right over here. We could have gone different directions, but this is reasonably close. It's a nice, sizable one at 8.6 million. Here comes our first train delivery of ore. Let's check out how this is working. Go stack inserters. Now notice they're leaving gaps on the belt. And that could potentially be concerning, but that's very temporary. Because at present, we don't even have half of our capacity bonus research done for the inserters. This is only with tier 3 done, and there's up to 7 that we can research, or to put it another way, look at our bonuses. Our stack inserter capacity is currently 5. It's eventually going to reach 12. So that means more than twice as much ore can get dropped at a time, and then we won't have any problems with not being able to fully feed these belts. And as this continues to unload, we can also note that our chests are very, very close to the same amount each, which is what we want for maximum flow. And unloading is done. That didn't take too long. Away we go. It's going to go pick up more ore for us and bring it back until all of these chests are full. We've got our buffer, and all of this is full as well. Now let's consider what this means in the grand scheme of our factory. We are currently needing about 130,000, both copper and iron, but those amounts again are going to scale up. That's just at the current production level that we're using, or a little over 2,000 a minute. Again, our train with the 4 cargo wagons can bring in 8,000 at a trip. So if we wanted to supply it fully from one train, assuming, those numbers don't increase, as they will, then we would need to get a train in here maybe every 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes, somewhere along that line. But of course, we can have more trains from more outposts. This is one train, one outpost. We can keep pushing out as far as we need to get the volume that we need. And this particular station, as we've noted, can serve many, many trains coming back and forth. Then we also are going to be weaning ourselves off gradually, because a lot of our ore is still coming from our belts from closer ore fields. And they'll be gradually doing less and less of this, and more of the importing via train. We'll be filling in train deliveries of iron, and gradually scaling it up in that direction. And how to fuse those two operations together with our interchange? Well, that is what we're going to be talking about next time, as our train has returned again with more ore. So you can get a sense of what the turnaround time is for these deliveries. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll stick around for that interchange discussion when we return.